The state police tried to charge us with a felony for throwing chairs in a pool. Summer going into senior year of high school. My buddy Griff had been talking to this girl from another school. Very pretty girl. They were talking for like maybe a month. We'll say a month. She was the lifeguard at a local country club. We had went to the pool to swim and talk to her, hung out with her and her friend a couple times, and me and her friend were kind of just third and fourth wheeling for Griff and this girl, right? It doesn't work out. We find out while she was talking to Griff, she was talking to 3 or 4 other guys, according to our friend who also worked at the country club that she was a lifeguard at. While they were talking, we had gone down to the pool once while it was open to swim and talk to her. Another time we went after the country club had closed. We swam in the pool, and that night we threw 2 chairs in. And we were just hanging out swimming, threw a couple chairs in, and we left. The next morning, one of the girls posts on her Snapchat story like jackasses or something. I screenshot it, and I'm about to swipe up at our cross country team banquet because me, Beef, and Griff all ran cross country together. Griff goes, "Did you just screenshot that?" Freaks out on me. "Why would you screenshot that?" "She's going to know it was us now." And I'm like, well, wasn't that the point? Like, that was kind of funny. And he's like, "No." So I make up this whole story. She probably wouldn't have even noticed that I screenshotted it, right? But I make up this whole story. I'm like, "Hey, I screenshotted this because one of my buddies lives down there. I bet it was him. That's so funny." She's like, "LOL, what was your buddy's name?" "We'll call him Frodo." I was like, "His name's Frodo, blah, blah, blah." So that happens months before Griff and this girl stop talking. It's a week before we're going into our senior year of high school. Griff and this girl don't work out. And we think that the only way to properly end this is to go down to the pool that she works at and fuck shit up. Our version of retaliation is we go down there, sneak into the country club, because the country club was just a white picket fence and a metal cattle gate. No cameras, no nothing. We go down there, we throw like 30 or 40 of the 50 chairs around the pool into the pool. And then me and Beef get a little carried away. We throw these metal grade tables in there in the deep end of the pool, and we go home. We think nothing of it. The next morning, we wake up, and it's all over their Snapchat story. The girls are crying, like, "Why would somebody do this?" And again, we think it's hysterical. This time, instead of screenshotting their Snapchats, my buddy Beef is recording it from his phone while Griff plays it on his phone. Like, we think we have thought all this out. They go home. I get a call from the girl. She's like, "Hey, who was your friend who was here earlier in the summer? Because we think it was him that threw all these chairs in the pool." I say, "Oh, here's his name." I'm thinking nothing of the repercussions that could be going on with this situation. About 2 hours later, the kid who lived in the same area as me and went to high school with me calls me. "Yo, Tom, what the fuck?" And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "State troopers just showed up to my house questioning me about some country club I've never been to." And I'm like, "Oh my God, what?" And he's like, "Yeah, dude, on top of that, I've been growing weed at my house." This kid had been growing weed and selling it from his parents' house. Cops show up. He's freaking out thinking it's from his drug business. Turns out it was just because I was like, "Yeah, it was him that threw chairs in the pool months ago." And I'm not thinking that this is that big of a situation. Come to find out, there had been legitimate vandalism going on at this country club all summer. People had been breaking in and stealing golf carts and driving them into the different ponds on the course. People had been setting shit on fire, spray painting shit, breaking windows. All this crazy shit has been going on that we had no idea about. We went down there twice. Once to actually swim and put 2 chairs in the pool. The second time, we actually threw a bunch of shit in the pool, right? We did not know that that's the straw that breaks the camel's back. So the country club owners are pissed. They call the state police, and they're like, "You guys need to figure out who's doing this. We've got suspects this time." Well, I'm the one that gave them a quote-unquote suspect, right? So then when they go to that kid's house and he has nothing to do with it, now they're calling my phone and questioning me. So I call my buddies Beef, Griff, and Montez, who went down there with me, and I'm like, "Guys, the state police are after us. Like, what do I say?" And they're like, "Deny everything. Just deny everything." So when the state trooper calls me, I'm like, "I have no idea what you're talking about. We've never been down there." Stone cold lie. And I hang up the phone. And that was it. I think it's over. My parents, who were out of town when we do this, they get back and they're like, "How was your weekend?" Because I'm sweating bullets, right? Like, I mowed the grass, cleaned the house. My other buddy who worked at the country club came flying in my driveway the morning after we did what we did because he knew we were going down there to do it. He's like, Tom, you're fucked. There's an investigation. The state police are involved. They're trying to charge whoever they find out did the pool thing with a felony. Because we didn't know this, and this is totally on me and Beef just getting carried away. The plastic pool chairs were one thing, but the steel grade tables that we throw in this pool apparently scratched the liner. Now, we didn't damage it. We just scratched the liner of the pool, which I guess because of the price of that would be considered a felony if the country club owners decided to press charges, which they wanted to. So when I find all this information out, I go back to my buddies and I'm like, hey, I think I'm just going to come clean with this. Like, this is actually pretty bad. And all my buddies, fuck no, Tom. Don't you say a word. Don't you get us involved. You lie. You just keep lying. And I'm like, okay, fine. I'll keep lying. Whatever. I get another call from the state trooper. And this is all happening in the course of 2 or 3 days. So the second time the state trooper calls, he's like, Mr. Ziegler, like, you're the only suspect we have in this situation. Like, there's a bunch of evidence that's kind of piling up against you because you know the girls that work at the pool. We know you didn't do this by yourself. Can you provide us some type of information? I'm like, it wasn't me. It had to be somebody else. Like, it couldn't have been us. Again, still not knowing all the other vandalism that had been going on until later. So I'm like, dude, no, we've gone down there and swam before while they're open, but we didn't do that stuff in the pool. That wasn't us. I just don't answer the rest of it because now I know the state trooper numbers that are calling me. So I just don't answer anymore. 3 or 4 more calls come in. I'm like deleting voicemails. I just keep trying to bury this lie. Getting ready for the school year, right? One point, I'm shopping for new shoes with my mom. Everyone knows that, you're going to do your back to school shopping with your parents. My mom's like, who was that number? I'm like, it wasn't, I don't know, block. Finally, state trooper shows up at my house. My dad's furious, like, you and your idiot friends, what did you do? So I finally have to come clean on everything. And I'm sweating at this point because the police are now really pissed because I've been lying to them for 2 weeks to try to cover my buddies' asses and my own. Don't get me wrong. Like, at first, again, my initial instinct was to come clean. But once my buddies were like, done, I'm like, I don't want them to get in trouble. I'll just keep lying. Because, deny, right? Like, eventually it'll go away. That's not what happened. They show up to our house. Luckily, my neighbor who worked at the country club, his dad knows the owners of the country club. So my dad goes to them and he's like, hey, can you give me some more information on what's going on? Because they're basically trying to charge my buddy and his son with like felony vandalism at the country club. So that's when we found out about the golf carts being stolen and the actual vandalism that had been going on. So my parents are like, well, we'll talk to the state police because we were only 17. We were only 17 at the time. Luckily, me and all my buddies hadn't turned 18 yet. One of my buddies was pretty close to turning 18 when this happened, so we were very nervous about the situation. Once we find out, my mom contacts all my buddies' moms. My buddies are pissed, right? They're like, Tom, you fucking snitch, you motherfucker. Like, they're mad. I'm like, I get that you're mad at me. I didn't know what else to do. Once the cops showed up at my house, I didn't know what else to do. My parents end up talking to the owners of the country club and the state police. They're like, our kids were just down there one time. They weren't involved with all the other stuff going on. They were just messing with the girls that they knew there. And thankfully, the owners of the country club were like, oh, like, now, no big deal. But the cops are pissed that I lied to them, and rightfully so, right? I'm like, that makes sense. So the cops want to scare us and prove a point, and the country club owners also want to teach us a lesson because we did still technically scratch their pool liner. And at this time, the only people who know that they're not pressing charges are our parents. So our parents, wanting to scare us, have arranged a meeting that we have to drive down to, and we have to talk to the state police and the owner of the country club. Ironically, I have a family wedding that weekend. So my talking to happens over the phone, and the cops like, hey, basically, and they think we're punks now, right? Because I've lied to them and sent them on a goose chase to random kids who had nothing to do with the situation. So the cop basically says to me, first of all, you lied to me. So like, that like you could have been charged with a lot more crimes by lying to me. Luckily for you, the owners don't want to press charges. And I'm on the phone like, yes, sir. Totally understand. Sorry about that. Blah, 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 blah. So once that happens, I call my buddies. I'm like, hey, I got to talking to over the phone, but you guys have to go down to the country club. And they're like, well, why aren't you? I'm like, I'm going to a family wedding. So now my buddies are super pissed at me. Like, fuck you. You snitched on us, and now we have to go down there. They're just busting my balls. And, granted, my buddies, we're still all friends to this day. My buddies just were very irritated at the time. So I get it. But they go down there. They get a talking to from the state policeman and the owners of the country club. My buddy Griff said while they're getting the talking to, the girl who was the lifeguard that he was talking to walks in, sees him. They make direct eye contact, and he said it took everything in him not to laugh. Like he had to bury his head down just because he's trying not to laugh because he doesn't want the cop and owner of the country club to see him laughing. But he kind of wanted the girl to see him laugh, right? And the funny thing was the girl had texted him directly, like, did you guys do this? And he was like, no, it wasn't us. And then 2 days later, he's down there getting talked to by the cops and the country club owner. They said we were going to have to come and do basically community service for them, like landscaping stuff, like clean the flower beds, mow grass and stuff. They never even made us come down. And again, once the owners of the country club found out that we weren't involved with all the other vandalism, they weren't even really that mad about it, even though we did scratch the pool liner, which they let go. Thank God. Thank God. And, and my buddies, again, were super pissed about the situation, but we ended up getting off scot-free. But what's really funny is years later, the same cop that had the investigation on me and my buddies, who I lied to over the phone like 4 or 5 times, my mom and dad are going up to the gas station to get like lottery tickets or something stupid, like the gas station 2 minutes from our house where I grew up. My dad said they're already in the parking lot. My dad's about to get out of the car, and the state trooper comes flying in and gives my dad a ticket for not wearing his seatbelt. My dad was like, we're already parked. Like, tried to dispute it. The cop was like, nope. I saw you on the road. You didn't have your seatbelt. It gave him like a $250 ticket. My dad felt like the guy looked familiar. When they saw the name on the ticket, it was the cop that we basically got off scot-free from for lying to for like 2. And that phone call with the cop, he was so pissed. He like you could tell he just thought I was such a punk. And again, at the time, I totally was. Like I was like, just got off scot-free. And me and my buddies, once we found out we got off scot-free, I would say it didn't change. Like unfortunately, at the time, just being young, the only thing that we really learned from was like, oh, we'll just be sneakier about the pranks that we pull when we go mess around in neighborhoods and do shit like that. But it was just one of those things. Like we ended up in the middle of a shit storm because we didn't know all the shit that was going down at the country club when we decided to go pull this prank on this girl that we felt like we were just getting even for our buddy, getting kind of heartbroken over this girl, not dating him or whatever, right? So it was really funny. And in the grand scheme of things, what I personally learned from that is trust your instincts. Because when I first got the call from the cop, I was going to come clean from the very beginning. But then my buddies were all like, lie, 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 lie. And I'm like, no, I should lie. I should lie. You know what I mean? So, and I ended up taking full responsibility with the country club and the cops. And I, told my buddies, like, I get it, dude. Like, I snitched. Like, I'm the bitch of the group. Fine. That's on me 110%. But looking back on it now that it happened, 10, 12 years ago, if I would have just come clean from the beginning, it would have saved us a ton of stress and drama from the whole fucking beginning of the thing. So that was just one of my favorite stories from high school, and just so funny when you look back on it. Like throwing some chairs and tables in a pool caused all that ruckus for no reason. And what's so funny is years later, like to this day, like I'll go golf at this country club every once in a while. Me and my brother will go down there and golf. It's like 4 or 5 years after we did it, and my sister goes down there. I don't even remember if she was going to swim or hang out with some friends, but they were like, "Oh, you're Tom Ziegler's sister? Do you know what he did at this country club and got away with it?" It sounds cheesy, but it was like folktale stuff. Like the story that what we did down there just got bigger and bigger and bigger over the years because we got away with it. Even though all we did was the chairs in the pool, we had nothing to do with all the actual vandalism going on down there. But just such a funny coincidence and a story that, we'll probably share to this day. Me and my buddies will joke about it to this day every once in a while when it comes up. But just one of those things. Like I said, my lesson in that is just trust your instincts. Always trust your gut in those situations. Don't let, and in life in general, I would just suggest to trust your instincts, trust your gut, and don't listen to the opinions of everybody else, because there's always an opinion. And I think if more people would just trust their instincts, you would have a much better outcome. So that would be my lesson in today's story. But that one was just so funny, and just a lot blew out of proportion for no reason on that one. But just so funny to think about. So that's today's episode. Hope everybody's well. songs with Tom.
Taking shots by the lake till I can't even breathe no more, see no more. I was riding around town thinking to myself, is it gonna get easier? I'll be up and away up the street getting paid, but I can't even breathe no more. What's it to me? What can I see? Taking shots by the lake till I can't